Happy Wednesday. I hope that you are all doing very well, that you're spending some time outside, taking advantage of this fine weather that we've had. I mean, just outstanding. It's simply beautiful out there. And spend some time outside, enjoy the sun a little bit, try to stay isolated as much as you possibly can and stay away from others. Certainly, we certainly don't want anybody to get sick. I know that my wife and I have been taking walks, and we try to stay distant from others. And as we do so, we're enjoying that time together. I hope that this time of isolation has been a good time for you to grow spiritually. It is a little bit more difficult, isn't it? Because we're not around each other, but there are certain things that we can do more of, such as Bible study, such as prayer, such as maybe even in the in-home devotionals. And I hope that these videos have been very beneficial for those in-home devotionals. Maybe they might elicit some of those thoughts or some of those spiritual ideas. Today, I'd like for us to think about this title of Look. There was a story about a man who was rich. He owned everything that the eye could see in this land. And he had a son. And there was also inside this land a poor man who absolutely had nothing to call his own. He had a son. When those respective sons got to the age of becoming a man, the rich man brought his son to the highest mountain of the land, and he said, "Son, look out, all of this is yours." Can you imagine that? How exciting that might be for that young man. Now the poor man who had absolutely nothing except for his son and that relationship that he had with him, he took his son to a high mountain. He told him to look. Now within this story, there really is no leading to a conclusion. Really allows for us to focus on the characters and maybe our own perspective of maybe the rich man and his son and the poor man and his son, because there's these unique perspectives that we all have, and maybe these all beliefs that we have in these situations. But can you relate to them? Can you relate to their stories just a little bit? Today I'd like for us to think about being the poor man's son for a little bit, and then also the rich man's son. You see, in a sense that we are the poor man's son, spiritually speaking, in our relationship with God. You see, our Father had created this world, set it up in all of its glory. And in his creation, he wants us to know that he made these things. In fact, Romans chapter 1 or verse 19 through 20, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them. We can see it inside of ourselves. We're so very complex, so very beautiful, and to be able to integrate ourselves one with another, to be able to have these thoughts on one side and these beliefs and these emotions and to react in a responsible way is outstanding. These things are manifest in us, for God hath showed it unto them. For the visible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. We know that there is a God. Why? Because we can go out into this world and we can see the magnificent beauty around us. We can interact with others in this world like I'm interacting somewhat in this video fashion today, with each other, and to know how very complex these things are. They didn't just happen to come about. But notice this, he shows us this world, and not that we have it as a possession, not with this anticipation and not with that expectation, because sometimes with that expectation that I'm going to have it all, it might rob us of the joy. See, here's the thing. In 1 Timothy 6, verse 7, for we brought nothing into this world, and it's certain that we can carry nothing out. What was important, or what is important? It is our connection with the Father. And I imagine in that short account that had really no conclusion, in my way of thinking, in my perception, is when that Father brought that Son to that mountain, when he was showing him those things, he says, I want you just to look. It was almost as if they're building this memory together. It's almost as if they're having this great connection to each other. What joy they would have in that relationship. What fulfillment they will have in that relationship, and having that close knowledge of each other and that relationship with each other. That is a peace and that is that joy. Maybe you might have had a similar memory between you and someone you loved and cared for, where you spent a moment in time together, and that moment just meant all the world to you, with that anticipation and expectation of life. You see, if there had been a promise of something physical or financial, wouldn't there be maybe an anticipation of all the comforts? And sometimes that anticipation and that expectation is a thief, a robber of joy. Maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I can explain it this way. Have you ever sat down and watched a movie? And before you watch that movie, you may have seen 1,000 different trailers on that movie, and watching that, you had a certain level of expectation. And as soon as you watch that movie, you're waiting for all the good parts, and at the end, you're like, it just wasn't what I expected it to be. It wasn't what I had anticipated it to be. However, maybe you go to a different movie and you haven't really watched anything about it. You don't really know anything about the plots or anything like that, or really what to expect. There is really no level of anticipation. I find that my enjoyment for those movies are greater. I like to say that that's probably an isolated incident, but it really is not in my way of perceiving things. We have a great world that we live in, but we're not really promised anything in this world. Our Father created all things, and He's showing us these things. He says, look, these point to how magnificent, how powerful I am, and that I have a love to care for you. I want you to notice two verses that are found in the book of Isaiah. In Isaiah chapter 45, beginning at verse 12, I have made the earth and created man upon it. I, even my hands, have stretched out the heavens, and all their host have I commanded. In verse 18, here's that second verse. It says, for thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, God himself that formed the earth and made it. He hath established it. He hath created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is none else. You see, He wants to show us this world. He wants to let us know that He created this world, and He wants that relationship with us. It's as if He's that Father. He takes us to that mountain and says, son, look. However, on the other hand, we're much like that rich son and the rich father. As that father brings him up to that highest mountain in that land, and he says, you can see all that you can see. And as you're looking out, he says, that's all our property, that's all ours. And he says, son, look, this is all yours. I want you to think about that love that father has for that son, all the endless possibilities. I think about it as much like that relationship that John knew that every Christian would have with God. In 1 John chapter 3 at verse 1, it says, behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. Therefore the world knoweth us not, because it knew him not. I think about that. How amazing this is. Behold. And then he didn't stop there, but he says, what manner of love? how much love our Father has for us, that we can be known as his children. See, we have a Heavenly Father who takes us through his word, shows us these great sights, and he shows us as a way of expectation and anticipation, but one that is far greater than anything that we can even imagine, that I could even imagine. And so he changes our perception. And he says, there is something great out there, and I want you to be able to have it. In Revelation chapter 21, or verse 10 through 11, and he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. And her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. He says, I want you to show you some of these heavenly scenes. I want you to show you this relationship of eternal. I want you to know how beautiful it is. You see, you might not ever own anything of gold or of silver or of these precious stones. But in heaven, though that greatness is like these precious stones, but even far, far greater. And as he shows us these things, he says, look, it's all yours. It's all ours. For who? I think that expectation of our Father is for his children. And also his children's expectation is somewhat similar to this. In Colossians chapter 3, verse 1 through 4, he says, if ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affection on things above, not on things on earth. For ye are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, shall appear, then shall ye also appear with him in glory. There are great things to expect. There are great things in which we anticipate, and we have such a promise from our Father that goes beyond our wildest imagination. And so, which son are you more like? The poor son? The rich son? Maybe a little bit of both. Maybe we can see it from the other perspectives a little bit. But it begins with that relationship with God. You've heard the word, you believe. Are you ready to do something with it, with repentance, confession, and being baptized? If you have those needs today, please let us know at Broad Street Church of Christ. Contact one of us today. Maybe this video has helped you just a little bit through this week. I sure hope it has. I sure hope that today, Wednesday, Thursday, and the following throughout this week, you have a great week. And if we can help, let us know.
More and more my soul shall be praising Jesus. He is